So, you're a business owner dedicated to the significant and sustainable growth of both you and your business. Welcome to the Add a Zero podcast.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen from My True North, and this is the Add a Zero podcast. Delighted to have you with us today as I'm sharing with you over the last couple of weeks the three most common challenges that I face when working with SME businesses here in the UK. If you haven't already caught sight of the last two episodes, I strongly recommend that you stop right now and go back just two episodes to understand the two other most common challenges that I've already addressed before we talk about it today. For those of you who've already caught up and been watching or listening on a regular basis, you'll know that the first most common challenge was all around marketing, and the second most common challenge was around the sales and the sales process. So let's assume that your marketing's gone well and we've made the phone ring, that we've got a good sales strategy and we've been able to go through the four parts of a sale, and we're now ready to be able to take cash off the customer or the prospect and allow them to be able to make a purchase. The third most common problem where I come across when working with SME businesses here in the UK is that they don't have a coherent pricing strategy. The two most common pricing problems that I often encounter when first working with an SME is how they arrived at the price in which they sell their product or service in the first place. There is two camps that they tend to fall into, and I'm querying and challenging you right here and now as to which one of these resonates the most with you. There is one camp of people, one collection of SMEs that I work with, that when I ask about their pricing strategy, they apply what's called a cost plus pricing model. What I mean by that is that they are perhaps a product-based business. They might buy something into the business, and they're either dropship, they're buying in bulk and then selling on an individual small unit basis, or they're buying a whole series of raw materials and then utilising that to be able to make something that they subsequently then sell at a profit. And their pricing model is how much has it cost us to purchase and what sort of a percentage margin can I possibly add to the top of that? The cost plus pricing model is simply how much did it cost to purchase and what can I add to that, the plus bit, in order to be able to make a profit. And it might be that they've added 10%, 20%, 30%, possibly even 50 or even 100% if it's lots of raw materials and then they've subsequently gone on to make something. The cost plus model is the most common model that we tend to come across with businesses that haven't had any form of price training or a price strategy. Does that ring true? The other model is just as dangerous and almost as common. They've gone to the market and they've looked at market averages. Well, we've done lots of research and we've found that some of our competitors charge X and others charge Y. And we've priced ourselves somewhere between X and Y. Usually a few pounds or a few percentage less than the most expensive on the market, but a lot more than the cheapest on the market. And the rationale behind it, they will look at the most expensive and say, I could never charge that. I think that's a rip-off. How dare they charge so much? I'm surprised anyone buys from them. And then they'll look at the cheapest on the market and say, I wouldn't get out of bed for that. I'm worth a lot more than that. I'm going to charge more than. And that is the level of research and development that they've gone into a pricing strategy. They've looked at the market averages and determined that they're going to sit somewhere between the cheapest and the most expensive. Does that ring true? Or maybe you've got a combination of both. You've looked at market averages, looked at how much it's cost for you to be able to do it, and then added a few quid on top. And the majority of businesses that we tend to come across and work with that haven't already done some form of price strategy marketing or pricing strategy work or training have adopted one or the other or a combination of both into their pricing structure. And the simple fact is, neither of those are effective long-term solutions for you to grow and scale your business. The first thing that I need to express to you, and yes, it's going to come as a bit of a kick in the teeth, the first thing that you have to do in business, preferably before you start trading, but certainly regularly whilst you are trading, is to know your fixed and your variable costs. Two sets of figures that you have to know, not just on an annual or monthly basis, but to break it down per week, per day, per hour, to understand what is it actually costing you to run your business. So first of all, let's just understand and unpick those two common problems that we often find that businesses haven't given sufficient consideration to before thinking about their price. First of all, let's look at fixed costs. That's relatively the easier one of the two. A fixed cost is anything within your business that you have to pay in order to be in business before you do business. Let me give you a couple of examples to show you as to how this works. If you're renting office space, then the rent that you pay on a weekly or monthly basis is a fixed cost. We know how much it is in advance. It's the same fee as to whether you're working one day, no day, or every day. There is a cost to the business that you will incur regardless of how much business that you do. Fixed costs. Electricity, gas, internet, insurances. If you're on a PAYE salary or you've got staff on a PAYE salary, then that also is included in fixed costs. The cost of running the business before or without any indication of the amount of business that we do. Fixed costs. And what I would want you to do is know what they are annually, monthly, weekly, daily, possibly even hourly, if we want to be really granular about understanding pricing and pricing strategy. Then there's variable costs. This is a little bit more challenging because you've got to give considerations to each and every product or service that you sell. If you're buying something in, what's the cost of purchase? If it's a service, how much does it cost you to provide that hour of service? Qualification, who's doing it, salary, national insurance, holiday pay, all of the things that are the laptop and the phone that the person needs to be able to use needs to be built into one, fixed cost, and then two, the breakdown of depreciation value of, well, how long is that computer going to last? Am I going to use it for an hour? Then it's depreciating by an hour's usage. So it might be the cost of the computer over 3 years divided by the 2,800 hours of usage over that 3-year period. And now I've got a depreciation cost per hour to build into the cost of operating that computer for the hour. It's a little bit more of a complex equations to look at, but we need to have a good, accurate understanding of the variable costs within our business. Now we can determine how much have I got to sell this product for in order that it's not costing me to deliver the service. What is my break-even point for that hour in business for the service or product that I'm delivering? Now I know the minimum cost that I could possibly afford to sell it at without losing cash. Now we can go to the market and determine as to, well, what's the market average? What are other people selling it for? What can I afford to sell it for? What do I need to do to package it and promote it, improve the packaging and promotion of it, so I'm not seen as quite so competitive, so it's not a like for like with other people? How can I add value to this in order to be able to increase the cost to the customer? What's the market saturation point? How much can the market bear before they determine that my conversion rate is reduced? What have I got to work on in order my profit margin? How much more can I afford to sell this for before the conversion rate drops and people aren't purchasing in favour of a competitor? We need to understand a little bit more about test and measure to understand our pricing and our pricing strategy. Now, the good news is the fact that we've got a one-day masterclass that teaches not just one or two, but 17 different pricing models and a whole strategy of which ones to work on and how to implement them and the impact it has for them. I was working with a client less than 3 months ago on their pricing strategy. We spent an entire day together looking at their 3 most prominent and most commonly purchased services, and we looked at the packaging of those and the cost of delivery to determine what the actual profit margin was within the business. And just so you're aware, when I started working with the client, they assured me that the profit margin was between 25 and 27%. A relatively healthy margin in order to be working on. I was wanting, therefore, to be able to push it to 30, 31, 32% if we could package it better. What we subsequently found is that the client hadn't given any considerations to a whole series of other considerations that ought to be in place when they came up with their pricing. And once we put those in place, what they presumed to be 25, 26% was actually 9%. It went from 25 to 26, what they thought, to 9 once we'd worked on the equations to establish as to what it actually costs to deliver that service and product effectively and sustainably. They were horrified, but it gave us a start point. It gave us an accurate start point to be able to understand as to what do we need to do differently, more of, less of, not at all, in order to be able to move that margin back from single figures into teens and back towards 20s. And over the course of a day, we worked on how to be able to better package that bundle together, to look at some of the actual costs and how to be able to absorb some of those and how to be able to pass some others of those on. That when we went back to market, we were already at 16.5%, and within 3 months of being able to operate, we were up to 19% profit. Just by being able to have a better, accurate look at what it actually costs, and therefore package it differently, promote it differently, and slightly improve the sales strategy in order to be able to sell at a higher fee. And by being able to do those things, we're able to move back from a 9% margin and back towards a 19% margin. Now, don't forget, this isn't just a vanity number. This isn't just about a turnover number and the things that we brag about in the pub. Moving to a 19% net profit margin is direct cash in the bank. It's your cash. It's your profit. This is bottom line growth. But it comes from knowing your numbers. It comes from understanding far, far better the actual costs of operating your business, and then to put a different pricing strategy in place from one of the 17 different models that we operate within and we could teach through our Adazero methodology on our price for profit masterclass. Now, what I want to get across to you is whatever that you're currently doing has led you to where you are right now. It's to today and the sales that you've made this morning or this afternoon. It's what you choose to do as a result of listening to this episode, which will determine as to whether you're still doing that margin in 2, 3, 4, 6, 12 months' time, or whether it's times to be able to have a different look at a different pricing strategy to better understand the numbers within your business, to stop comparing yourself to a competitor with whom you have no idea what the actual costs of operating within their business are, to determine as to whether it's a like-for-like comparison. And in order for you to be able to move from a single figure net profit back into something that enables you to add a zero. God bless, take care. I look forward to being able to hear back from you as to what you've got from the last 3 episodes specifically on marketing, sales, and pricing. The 3 most common challenges that I tend to come across right now when working with SME business owners. God bless, take care. I'll see you again next week.
That's all for this episode. As always, we really thank you for listening and welcome your comments, thoughts, and suggestions. So please do drop us a line by emailing podcast@mytruenorth.biz. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button on whichever platform you're listening to this through. And tell your colleagues and business network all about who we are. You've been listening to the Add a Zero podcast presented by Jay Allen. Brought to you in association with My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company.